Did you know in Toy Story 2, a Pixar employee accidentally deleted the entire film before it was finished? During final edits of the film, the assistant technical editor ran an incorrect demand that essentially ordered all the files below the current directory to be removed. Thankfully, one of the supervising technical directors had a backup on her computer at home. However, despite saving the film, the bosses didn't think the movie was good enough, and it was remade anyways. But did you know in Fury, Shia and Scott almost got in a real fight while filming? Scott kept spitting tobacco onto the side of the tank, and Shia thought that this was disrespectful. He decided to have words with Scott, and things got really heated between the two of them. The only reason it stopped was because Shia found out that the script called for Scott to spit tobacco juice on the tank, and Brad stepped in to break up the potential fight. He also kept opening up the cut on his forehead himself, and he claims to have been doing this to keep up the realism of his performance. Did you know in Mission Impossible Fallout, the stunts were a notch beyond previous movies? Tom Cruise trained for a whole year to perform the Halo jump stunt, and he was injured during a stunt that required him to jump from one building to another. On top of that, Henry Cavill stated that the stunts in Superman were nothing compared to the ones he had to do for Mission Impossible. He commented that Superman is more about looking the part, whereas the stunt preparation for Mission Impossible was grueling, and everything had to be on point. Did you know in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the squirrels weren't CGI, but actual trained squirrels? In the remake of the 1971 classic Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, director Tim Burton decided that for the scene in which 40 squirrels are working on opening nutshells and dropping them on a conveyor belt, he actually wanted real squirrels to do the scene rather than special effects. It took about 19 weeks to train the squirrels to sit on the stools and be able to complete the tasks, but did you know in the Suicide Squad, James Gunn had a lot of fun and freedom creatively to do what he wanted with the movie? He even stated that he had the most fun creating this movie thanks to a great crew. He was in the best mental state he's ever been in, he was able to focus on creativity instead of perfectionism, and Warner Brothers didn't really interfere. Thanks to that, Gunn was able to choose villains that were less known in the DC universe. He said that this version of Suicide Squad was closer to Ostrander's original vision of second-rate antagonists. Did you know in Eternals, Chloe Zhao was actually set to direct Black Widow instead at one point? But she's a huge fan of the Marvel comics, and she pitched the idea for directing the Eternals film instead. Kevin Feige has come forward stating that he fell in love with her pitch to tell this 7,000-year history of characters intertwining backstories. He loved her vision for switching the characters around while trying to keep close to the source material. Did you know in The Northman, this was the first time that Robert Eggers wasn't allowed the ultimate say in the final cut. This was his first big-budget film. Prior to this, films such as The Witch and the Lighthouse received comments on possible changes, but ultimately, Robert was able to decide the final cut. With this film being bigger in every sense, Robert had to follow directions. While the final cut was approved by other directors as well, Robert said cutting footage was one of the hardest things for him. He'd love to make another big film, but only if he could have total control. Did you know in The Wizard of Oz, the dog who played Toto actually earned more than the humans that played the Munchkins? Terry the Terrier was paid around $125 a week for her acting, which included her doing all her own stunts. This is a relative fortune, however, considering the humans playing the Munchkins only got around $50 a week, despite all of the singing and dancing. The owners of Terry have since said that they wish they negotiated for more since the filmmakers so clearly wanted the dog in the movie. But